Welcome to Focus Radio and Television. I'm Anthony Rayo, your host for the afternoon or whenever you're watching us on LSTV, cable channel on Comcast 13, Bright House 498, and coming soon to Florida Fiber Networks. You're listening to us here, of course, on My 790 AM, the first and third Thursday of each month on WLBE at 1:30 in the afternoon. So you could be listening to us now or watching us on LSTV. We've got a lot to talk about. The magazine is, of course, always on stands at 170 locations around Lake County and the villages. You can pick that up. It's at doctor's offices, it's at restaurants. You can find it almost anywhere nowadays. And, of course, you can watch us here and other segments, Focus TV, radio, on LSTV. So we're going to welcome Ben Mack-Jackson to the show today. And Ben Mack-Jackson is kind of famous in Lake County now. Tell us a little bit about why that is. What do you do now that is helping the community, and why do you do it?
Well, I started a project in the summer of 2015 called the WWII Veterans History Project, and I interview World War II veterans, as many as possible in my lifetime, to preserve their stories for the future generations and help my generation better understand what those heroes went through.
That's interesting. Now, you can watch that show on LSTV, correct?
Yes, you can watch it on LSTV. There's actually 5 episodes out right now.
Yeah, so we've got the 4 that everybody's been watching, and then the 5th one's on now. Tell me a little bit about how you were contacted. I know our publisher of Focus Magazine and the owner of Red Apples Media, Mark Robert Schwartz, he actually contacted you when he found out about this project.
Yes, he did. He reached out to me a few months ago, and he contacted me and said, would you like to make a documentary series about your project? And I said, for sure. So that's how it kind of got up, and ever since, Red Apples Media has been teaching me a lot about editing and has provided a great experience for my project and a great opportunity.
So you're filming, you're editing, and you're interviewing. You're kind of a one-man band, aren't you?
Yes, right now.
So you're going to hire some help?
Who knows?
All right, all right. Now, how do you finance all this? How does this, because this is not something that you can just do in your spare time, if especially at your age.
Well, with my regular project, I have a GoFundMe page, and I've raised almost $500 on my GoFundMe page to help support costs of production equipment and flyers and business cards to help spread the word about my project. And through my documentary series with LSTV, Parity Financial Group, he has provided me an underwriting sponsorship to help pay for the production cost of that show and eventually make a joint donation to a corporation or organization sometime in the future.
Now, Greg has a television show on LSTV, The Learning Lounge, and now he's helping you kind of further this, philanthropic project. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think what Greg is doing is amazing. I think what he's doing, giving back to the community, is great, and I really appreciate his support for my project, and I really appreciate what he's doing in the community and his power of gifting.
Well, thank you very much I'm sure he appreciates that kind of plug for him. But let's get to the nitty-gritty. Let's get down to your project. What does it entail for you? I mean, how do you find who you're going to interview, and what makes up the questions you ask?
Well, I started off contacting my local VFW, VFW Post 5277 in Claremont, Florida, and they provided me with a contact for a veteran. His name was Frank Klum. He was the second veteran I interviewed, actually. I met a veteran at a museum, and I interviewed him for my first. But it really got kicked off when the VFW provided me with information, contact information for veterans, and I interviewed probably 5 or 6 from their lists, and that really got me up and going with my project. And now I've interviewed almost 25 World War II veterans, 12 of them which are on my site, which have been edited into mini documentaries.
So we're going to get to see all of them at some point?
Definitely, yes.
Oh, wow. That's going to be really interesting. Now, with this Veterans History Project, why did you get into it in the first place?
Well, when I was in 5th grade, I was going through the pages of my history textbook, and there was 2 pages about World War II, and I said, my gosh, there must be more about this war than what's in the textbook. And so I took my mom, she took me to the library, and I got every book that I could get about World War II that I could carry, and I learned and learned and learned, and it just went from there. I started collecting World War II memorabilia probably around 5th or 6th grade, and I'm hoping to open a moving museum now in the future where I display my nominative items that I've collected over the past months and years in a moving display to help further my project's mission.
Now, how do you find the veterans you're going to interview? They're all World War II veterans at this point. And I know we were talking before the show, and about 500 a day are dying in the United States is what you stated, right? So how do you find them, or can people contact you to find them?
Yes, through my website I have my email address and my phone number, as well as forms on my website. So you can put in your name, your email, everything, and you can send a form through the website. Also, Villages Honor Flight and Honor Flight Central Florida, the 2 hubs in Honor Flight that are in this local area, have provided me with generous amounts of support, not only through GoFundMe, my GoFundMe account, but also providing me the names of almost 70 World War II veterans to interview.
Oh, wow.
Villages Honor Flight in particular, as well as Honor Flight Central Florida, they have definitely helped my project grow, and I really appreciate their support.
Wow. So what's your website again, so we make sure viewers know that?
www.WWII
All right. So kind of easy. You can remember. It's a little long, but www.veteranshistoryproject.com.
www.WWII.
Oh, okay. Perfect. I'm glad you corrected that. We want to make sure they know where to go. Now, you mentioned Honor Flight. Mom was telling me you've been on an honor flight, and
yes.
You got a special honor yourself.
Yes. On April 8th, I went on an honor flight with Honor Flight Central Florida. I took Frank Klum, who was the star of Episode 5 on LSTV, and we had an amazing trip. I was the youngest Guardian to go for Central Florida ever, and according to sources, I'm the youngest Guardian to ever go in the nation. So it's an amazing honor to be around in that flight, 24 World War II veterans on that flight in particular, and it's been amazing. That was an amazing trip.
Yeah. What was your favorite part of the trip?
Police escort.
So you really enjoyed kind of seeing how it works.
Yes, it was amazing. We had a police escort through D.C. We got to see all the memorials, World War II Memorial, Korea, Vietnam Wall, changing of the guard. We got special seats on the changing of the guard floor level that the public can't get. And it was amazing.
Now, had you been to Washington before?
I have not been to Washington before the trip.
So you really enjoyed that.
I got an amazing 24-hour trip, and they covered everything that I wanted to see.
Yeah, well, that's great. You know, now you've been interviewing a lot of Army veterans. A lot. Your last episode, episode 4, was Dorothy Becca, the nurse that helped in the liberation of Dachau. Now that was something special to me because I had a man I knew who was in Dachau, Martin Poetsinger, who died years ago. But these episodes, how do they affect you personally when you interview a veteran or find somebody who's had this history in World War II?
Well, Dorothy Baggett, she was at a nursing home in the Villages, and she hadn't really told her story before. She had a newspaper article where she was just holding her picture of her in her uniform, but her story hadn't been completely told. And she spoke for over 2 hours about her story, and it was very difficult to shorten it into a half-an-hour episode because her story was just so much information, and it was very moving what she said about her experiences during World War II, especially liberating Dachau.
Yeah, I bet that was something that really kind of moved her, and seeing all that. Now, we actually did an article in Focus in the January magazine and kind of featured you and what you were doing and how you were doing it. And now we can watch you and listen to your stories, your interviews on LSTV. And often we'll have in the daily commercial, we'll advertise those times and dates and places, and you could also find them on the guide so that you know exactly when to watch and where to watch. Now, I was told that you have some artifacts that you've collected, that you've been given Do you have a favorite one, or do you want to talk about that at all?
I have a bunch of nominative items for the museum. I've been donated items from veterans and families of veterans who have passed. And every time I receive one of these items, I make it my mission to preserve it and make sure it stays for a long time. And I can't say I have a favorite, but I am pretty sure a World War II uniform that belonged to Roy Morrison, the full uniform, he gave to me, and it definitely brought tears to my eyes.
Yeah, I bet that would. Now, you've had a lot of experiences. You said more than 25 at this point. You've interviewed. You have another 70 for sure to go, and probably many more than that. You've got MVets, you've got the American Legion, you've got all these resources for people to interview. Have you had a special experience in those interviews that really moved you?
No. Every veteran is different in their own way, and I think that every veteran is different, and that makes it a special experience on its own, each different veteran's story.
So it's unique.
Everyone, yes.
Yeah. What have you found to be the case in some of their experiences? What is the overall theme of their service to the country?
Well, each one has a different theme, but some of the shared themes are mostly either anti-war or they would do it again if they were called up now. And everyone's different, and their opinions about their war service, all of them are positive, but some have different opinions than others.
Yeah, afterwards, because things change for them, and
Definitely.
and they still respect and are proud of what they've done. And so is everybody else. We look at the service and we understand what they were trying to do, whether people agree with it or not. And that's something that you've probably learned. What have you seen, as far as people who might not return to war but have been involved?
Everyone usually has a positive outlook that I've interviewed about their combat experiences and their relatives and family and friends. Most of them have contacted me and sent me emails back and said how much they appreciate what I have done with their relative and preserving their story. And even though sometimes the editing process, they wait a little while for the video to come up on my website, in the end everything turns out great, and they really appreciate my support.
Well, that's great. Now, how long do you want to continue this history project?
Well, as long as possible. As in 2036, it is estimated there will be no more World War II veterans left. And that's a very sad reality, because I will still be alive, and there will be no more World War II veterans to preserve their oral stories.
Mm-hmm. So these can be video stories, can be written down events.
Yes. They can be either through email, phone call, Skype, as well as video interviews at their house. That's what most of them are.
So, well, our time is out. We hear the music starting up. Ben, thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank you.
Of course, we are looking forward to seeing more of these history projects. And thanks for being with us as viewers. We're going to be right back, and listeners, on My 790. We'll be back with Becca Freeman, and we're going to be talking about her wrestling career and her diagnosis with thyroid cancer. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back on Focus Radio. Welcome back to Focus Radio and Television today. You're watching us on Comcast 13, Bright House 498, or possibly Florida Fiber Networks, which is coming soon. Or you're listening to us here on My 790 AM. Now, we just mentioned Becca Freeman. Now, she and her coach, her wrestling coach, Jack Burkett, are here in studio, and we're going to talk to them a little bit about the battle that she's fighting with cancer and the battle she's fighting on the mats. So we've got some positive things to talk about, and also how the community can help and what they can get involved in to support both these battles in a way. So welcome, Coach. Welcome, Becca.
Thank you.
And what do we want to talk about today? What do we want to start with, Coach? Let's start with the positive.
Yeah. South Lake High School is one of the first wrestling programs here in Lake County. I actually had a wrestling program several years ago. Program went away. I was in the area teaching at another school, and Mr. McHugh, the principal at South Lake, really wanted to start the program back up. Had a lot of students interested in it. And so I came over and we started up the program, and just last year was our first year. So
Excellent. Well, that's good. We're happy to have you. Now, Becca, let's talk to you now a little bit. How did you get involved in the wrestling program, and why?
Actually, I didn't really know how I felt about wrestling because I didn't really want to be a part of it. I was like, oh no, I don't want anybody touching me. And then my friend Justin was like, you know, girls varsity letter, it looks really good on college. It's a really good sport because I wanted to go into the Marine Corps. He's like, it really gets you physically and mentally in shape for that. So I was like, you know what, I'll try it out. And then the first day, like, I got there and they were like showing me all the shots and takedowns, and I was like, this is actually really fun. It's everybody on the team was really nice, and I've played volleyball and many other sports. I've never had a team be so welcoming and so nice, and all the coaches were there. They were so involved, and I was like, yeah, I really like this, and I kind of stuck with it, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you're also in the ROTC?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what is it, Becca, about these things that kind of has helped you through the battle with thyroid cancer now that you're dealing with?
Wrestling is kind of like the team itself is really close. Like at first I'd only been on the team for a couple months, so I was like, I didn't know that like I would have the support that I did. And then like as soon as I found out, I was going bowling with a couple friends, and it was like packed, so we left and we came back. My mom called, she's like, oh, you're not at the bowling alley. And I was like, how do you know that? And then we come back and the whole team's there just supporting me. And the next day they all came to my house before my second surgery, and they all were there. Everybody was there for me, and ever since the diagnosis, my team has been like right by my side through everything, doing everything they can to make me feel as normal as possible. And then even getting back into wrestling, getting back on the mat this last week, the team was like helping me get back into it. They were showing me the new moves that they learned. They were making sure that I didn't feel left out and helping me pick up my career where I left off.
Good. What makes Becca unique, Coach?
she is very mentally tough. From the very beginning, she came in and it didn't matter what it was, how tough it was physically, exhausting that wrestling can be. She jumped right in and just said, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be the best I can be at it. And so she kind of takes that into everything. You know, I see it in her academics also at school. See it whenever, you know, she's trying to do things outside of just academics with ROTC, and then also the battle she's fighting right now.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of people in your corner, Becca. You've got your mom, Mandy Freeman, and also Monica Keene, one of the other team wrestling coaches, team moms on the wrestling team. How do you feel? I know we had the article this in May that dealt with some of the things that you've been going through. We also featured another boy, Jay Ryan, who's battling leukemia. And it seemed like there was an overall theme through both of your articles that dealt with the community and how they've helped. What was it when you were first diagnosed? How did you feel, and then how did that feeling change once you saw the support?
When I first found out, I honestly, I didn't know how I felt. I felt kind of like, oh man, what am I going to do? Like, I feel like I didn't have anybody. And then immediately, like that night, just having the whole team there, like making sure I had a good time, and they didn't treat me differently, they treated me normally. That really, I was like, that was my biggest worry, because I like being social, and I was like so worried, like, how is everyone going to treat me now? Everyone's going to treat me differently. I don't want to be treated, I just want to be treated normally. And my team and the team moms have been wonderful, and they just make sure that I fit in. We go to the beach, we plan fun trips, and it really helps keeping everything normal and keeping my mind off of it. Sometimes I even forget that I have cancer, and I feel completely normal when I'm with my team.
That's a good thing, because it can be a burden to bear, isn't it, for you?
Yeah, sometimes I get kind of upset because I'll be in school and then I'll see something like, my friends will be like, oh man, you missed this really cool thing in school today, and I'm like, well, that sucks, and I kind of miss like being with my friends in school and stuff, but at the same time, I'm glad that I have the
So
people that I have.
Yeah, you're dealing with it at home right now.
Mhm.
You were mentioning before the show, so you're kind of homeschooling until you can get back into the fray once you feel a little better.
Yeah, I'm homebound, and Coach Burkett is my teacher. So he comes to my house, say 2 or 3 times a week, and we do our schoolwork. Or sometimes I go into his room and we do our schoolwork, and he helps me through my testing and everything, just to make sure that when I go into my classes next year, that I won't be left behind and I'll be caught up on everything.
Well, we're very glad you came out of the house to be here with us today.
you.
Thank you. And hopefully this will help get the word out. Now, Coach Burkett, turning to you again, you've become a very big support. You're her teacher, you're her coach. What can everyone else do, and what is it that drives you to help?
Well, I just love young people. I love seeing them learn new things, seeing them grow and become better than they even think they can be. Key example is Becca never thought she would be a state level wrestler in just her first year. So one of the biggest things I can say is always be looking for those young people who they don't have somebody who's supporting them, who's giving them that extra nudge to do something outside of their comfort zone. So.
Now, how can we help Becca in particular?
Yeah, we have a Facebook page, facebook.com. You can go / Becca Strong Cancer, and you can follow everything we're doing. We do a lot of trips and outings with Rebecca, also trying to make sure that we take care of everything as far as traveling to and from doctors, helping with needs at the home, making sure the whole family has everything they need so that she has the full support just so she can battle this and not have to focus on anything else.
Yeah, and not think she's alone either.
Absolutely.
Now, have you found that even on the mats? How can you compare what Becca's doing physically to what she's doing now emotionally and mentally?
Yeah. One of the things that I tell every single one of my wrestlers, and they will all come back and tell you they found it to be true, is that once you've wrestled, everything else in life is really easy. Wrestling is an extremely exhausting, tough, mentally, physically sport. And whenever you've done that, you've actually faced somebody one-on-one. When you come into something like Becca's facing, cancer, almost one-on-one, but she still has that team support around her. She can take that same mentality that if she does the right things and she prepares right mentally and physically, and she approaches it that way and has the support of her team and attacks it, not wait back and let it do its thing and just kind of slide by, but actually goes after it and does everything she can do, then she can overcome. And she's seen that on the wrestling mat, and I think we're going to see that also with what she's battling now.
Yeah. Now turning back to you, Becca, he mentioned that battle, that spirit. You've got team spirit, you've got support from your family, you've got support from the team, but on a personal level, I heard there was some more bad news after this article came out.
Mm-hmm.
What was that, and how are you dealing with it?
I went in for a CT scan, and they said that there was a possible spot in my lungs that caused it to up my radiation dose. So now I'll be radioactive longer than I hoped, which kind of puts a hold on my summer break and everything. And I honestly don't really know how I reacted. I just kind of was like, oh man, that sucks. But then at the same time, I was like, well, it can't be any worse. At least it's not going to get worse. It's just this one little pause, and then it'll be over with.
Yeah.
So I guess I tried to look at it as positively as possible.
Yeah, that seems to be the theme. I know in this article, even with the younger boy, he's like 7, and he's dealing with that leukemia, Jay. And the community, like in your case, is rallying. They had a 5K. Now, what's the next event that's going on? Maybe, Coach, you can answer that.
Right now, with Rebecca having radiation, we're trying to just kind of put a hold on things, just to kind of see where she's at. We will be updating on the Facebook page.
Okay.
The next time we have something going on. We were being very active there for a while. Every week we had something that was taking place. But she has a radiation coming up very soon, so we want to make sure that everything's taken care of home before we get back out and start helping out in the community.
Yeah, you definitely have to think health first
Yeah.
when you're going through something like this. But what is it that you want to happen for yourself, Becca?
Honestly, I just kind of am ready to get it over with so that I can go away for the summer and have a good summer break and just go back to school and get back to full-time wrestling and getting everything back to normal.
Yeah.
it used to be.
When does the radiation stop for you now?
I start June 1st, and then I'm radioactive until the 11th.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's precautions after that, but it all depends on like my water intake and how much I can pass through my body quickly, and that all depends on how my body reacts to the radiation.
So, yeah, so you're trying to stay in shape and be ready for it.
Definitely.
Is Coach helping with that?
Definitely.
Good, good. So what do you do specifically to now encourage Becca, Coach?
Yeah. Well, we try to make sure that, you know, her diet and everything's in order. We've set up a schedule now for each of our wrestlers. Rebecca, even through this, has really stayed, hey, Coach, I want to make sure I'm still physically in shape, not just for wrestling, but so I can battle this. And we have a schedule set up for each of our wrestlers. They go out and they're actually working out with Rebecca, making sure that she's prepared, one, physically, but also it helps her prepare mentally. You know, if she can battle a tough workout going into this, then she can battle whatever is going to throw at her. So that's kind of what we're doing to focus on. It helps take her mind off of it, and it also gives her that encouragement and motivation. Hey, if I can do that, even though I'm not feeling well, then I can take anything else.
I can still do this. Well, the show is about to end, so we're going to bid you farewell, and thank you so much for joining us, and I really wish you success in this battle, because
Thank you.
it's not easy. It
Thank
sounds
you.
very, you know, I've had family members who have had cancer, not the type you've had, but it's a tough thing, and you've got the support. And what would you like to say about that support?
I'd like to thank everybody who's been there for me, all the teen moms, my mom, and my parents, and my whole family has been very supportive, because I know that I've been rather difficult to this. So then just my coaches, every single one of my coaches have been amazing, and my teammates, and even going and wrestling with the little kids. It's just everything I have right now I'm very thankful for.
Well, thank you, Becca, for joining us, and thank you, Coach. And now we're going to bid everybody farewell who's been watching, and pick up your copy of Focus, of course. It's a catalyst for conversation in the community, as you can see from our discussions here. I'm Anthony Rayo, and thanks for listening to Focus Radio. And don't forget to keep us in your focus.